This is from the website thewaythetruthandthelife.net.
Building on the physical postulates, we have the evolution of physical complexity that required a stable environment for in the order of billions of years, where the Earth was in an orbit around the sun, and the evidence would indicate that a island built up, that the Earth faced the sun, and an island Pangaea, and the hot in the center would cause the water to boil, and on the vapors would come out and rain around a peripheral, a life ring around this hot spot, and on the back of the Earth, cold. And the moon in a semi-synchronous orbit, closer and closer, and then the moon striking the Earth from behind, spreading Pangaea apart. That's why you can find dinosaur fossils in Antarctica. But then the Earth spinning, that happened 10 million years ago, 65 million years ago, and killed all the large reptiles, broke their eggs, and killed them with this impact and the harsh environment. Then came the development of mammals in their absence. But what we have is the science of evolution. Well, one of the fundamental postulates that would explain behavioral reality built on this physical science of evolution is a simple principle. What propagates is what passes genetics on to the future. And we find that in many of the mammalian species, it was the dominant or alpha male that dominated male and female and tended to propagate. And the females would mate primarily with the dominant male. It might even kill infants so that the female would go into ovulation in the higher apes. But the basic principle was the most powerful male fighting and then essentially raping the female. You can see that with dogs or cats in heat. And so this evolution went on, and the great apes developed in a jungle environment in Central Africa. They flourished. Then came, about 10 million years ago, came a change in the weather that made a savanna, a grassland in Central Africa, and made herding animals, grazing animals, good source of meat if you can catch them. And the great apes emerged, some onto the plain, onto the savanna, and learned to walk and run and hunt to catch these grazing animals. Now there's a big transition happens here. There's only 4 or 6% more DNA in the humans than in the great apes. Just another 4 to 6% on top. But there's a big behavioral difference. Humans have logical speech, cause-effect relationships. Now, keep that in mind. It explains something. The great apes, the females, do not typically perform anti-infanticide. In fact, the most breastfeed to the second molars, which would be equivalent to 5 or 6 years old. And infanticide is very rare, except for males that would destroy another male's offsprings to cause the female to go into ovulation, that he could have offsprings. But this principle of what has babies, what propagates, and typically it's the female that is attractive and goes along to get along. That's an important principle. But now we go to the evolution of humans walking and running and chasing, the men doing the chasing, the women caring for the infants. But something happens that infanticide becomes endemic to the human race. Why? One basic principle. Most females experienced rape, violence on the part of the male. The great apes do not have logical cause-effect speech to reason. They do not associate the infant months later with the violent rape. Therefore, the resentment towards the male that has become genetic is not transferred to the child as a product of the male. I need to insert here, there is a significant physiological difference between male and female brains, both in the number of brain cells and the specialization, right and left hemisphere. It is the male function of hunting and making war or defending gave need for logic more than the female responsibility that would secure the future generations. Her need was to take care of the babies, here and now, today. The males needed to reason on how they hunted in the past to go, how are we going to hunt tomorrow? Or how we made war in the past, how we're going to make war tomorrow. And this led to hemispheric specialization. One hemisphere logical verbal and another hemisphere pattern nonverbal, music, that kind of thing. And this still exists today, and it might explain why female apes did not have the logic to associate the infant with the violence, rape of the male, and they did not perform infanticide, where the males may, in some cases, may have reasoned that somebody else's offspring and I will kill it, or that, or reason if I kill it, I will put this female in ovulation. At any rate, there's a significant difference between the male and female brain, and it may explain some of these things. A common example of this brain differences shows itself in stroke. The female right and left hemisphere tend to duplicate each other with both logic and pattern thinking in both. The male, more specialized logic in one hemisphere and pattern in the other. So when a male has a stroke, the side of the brain where the stroke occurs, if it's just a single hemisphere, the effect is more catastrophic. Where the female, if she has a stroke, the other side is more able to compensate for the loss.